everyone. Welcome. I'm Michaela Parker, founder and executive director for the Academic Data Science Alliance, and I'm here to welcome you to our virtual series 2021-2022. Today, we're going to continue our data science conversations with Florida A&M University and the Johnson C. Smith University. But first, in case you don't know who we are, I thought I'd start with a little bit of background. The Academic Data Science Alliance, or ADSA, is a community of data science researchers and educators who take responsibility for a just, equitable future where data science approaches are thoughtfully applied in all domains for the benefit of all. There's a QR code at the bottom of this slide, and it will appear on the following slides. If you snap that with your iPhone or other mobile device, that'll take you to our website where you can read more about our events and activities. So with that, I will thank you all for joining us, and I'm going to now introduce LaTanya Brown-Robertson, who is a special assistant for research and development in the College of Business. She's also data science and analytics initiative lead and professor of economics and many more titles besides at Bowie State University. She will be our moderator today. LaTanya?
Thank you, Michaela. Hello, everyone. Well, let's get started. We have a great session going on today with Florida A&M University and Johnson C. Smith University. Our first speaker is Dr. Felesia Stukes. She's an assistant professor of computer science at Johnson C. Smith University. Dr. Stukes has directed 2 federally funded projects to develop capacity in data science by enhancing faculty and student knowledge and research using engaging and culturally relevant strategies. Dr. Stukes is also a co-director for the HBCU Data Science Consortium. Welcome, Dr. Stukes, and you can start sharing your slides if you like.
Hello, everyone. Again, I am an assistant professor of computer science at Johnson C. Smith University. And I wanted to just begin by talking about the data science initiatives on our campus. We are a small private HBCU located in Charlotte, North Carolina. And our initiative around data science has been funded by 3 major sources: National Science Foundation, the Department of Defense, and IBM. So I want to talk a little bit about the NSF funding that we received. This was our initial funding to get our initiative started. It was for 1 year. And the goals of this funding was to lay the groundwork to develop a data science minor at our university. So the activities around this program involved mostly professional development for faculty. Of course, some of the things that we're going to talk about today, which is how to create partnerships and collaborations that would work specifically for our campus. So the grant funding was for that. We also wanted to get industry input, industry participation in developing our curriculum, as well as talking to faculty at other HBCUs to see what they were doing. And lastly, piloting our curriculum ideas and research for undergraduate students. And so the Department of Defense funding was very specific around some of the research that we decided to do. So I actually did sponsor a lab called the Social Computing Lab. And within this lab, we had a Data Bulls project. And so in this case, data stands for data, analytics, technology, and athletics. And the goal of this project, which was funded by the Department of Defense, was to increase access of this data that is something that students could have a real world application with, as well as quality data that they could typically collect on their own using equipment instrumentation that we received through the funding. This was specifically using wearables, for example, and we also use additional sports analytics equipment. We were able to partner with our sport affiliated programs as well. So this improved capacity with those particular academic programs, as well as with students in our research lab. So moving along, I wanted to just give a snapshot view of data science at Johnson C. Smith. So within that minor, of course, we offer this minor is targeted to all students, even though it is sponsored and managed by the Computer Science and Engineering Department, but our target is all students regardless of major. And in fact, we are very, very interested in students who typically would not choose computing as their major. We also have faculty who advise students in interdisciplinary data science projects. We choose to leverage the IBM Skills Academy for our basically using digital badges, software, infrastructure, also faculty training. So with IBM, some of the funding did come with a lot of the infrastructure that we would not have had without their assistance. And then lastly, we want to continue to build on that by offering new curriculum and increasing our partnerships. And that partnership does include, again, working with the Data Science Consortium for HBCUs, which is going to be spoken about a little bit later today. And so lastly, I do have a one-page view of our minor curriculum. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out and let me know.
Great, thank you so much, Felesia. Before we move on to our next speaker, I just wanted to know whether or not anyone wanted to, had any brief questions that they wanted to pose to Felesia. If so, post them in the chat, but we'll kind of get into a deeper Q&A later. But any clarification questions before we move on to our next speaker, please place them in the chat. Okay, well, let's move on to our next speaker, who is Dr. Jason T. Black. Dr. Black is an associate professor of information systems and operations management in the School of Business and Industry at the Florida A&M University. Dr. Black is also a member of the South Big Data Hub. He's a participant of the NSF Data Up Initiative, and he is an instructor for software carpentry program, which teaches data science related tools to researchers using interactive teaching strategies. Dr. Black serves as the co-director as well of the HBCU Data Science Consortium, which is a network of HBCU professionals and industry partners interested in increasing HBCU access and participation in data science. Welcome, Dr. Black, and you can start sharing your slides if you would like.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'd like to give you an overview of what's going on at Florida A&M as it relates to outreach, education, and research. So we'll jump right in. So looking at the educational or the outreach aspect first, there are several ways in which we've been involved with data science. Initially, we joined the South Big Data Hub, which you heard referenced. And as you can see on the slide here, there are 4 hubs throughout the United States. If you're not familiar with the South Big Data Hub, we are part of the South Hub, and which has a goal of accelerating, growing, enabling, and building data science capacity among academia, industry, nonprofits, and government entities. And so we've been involved with the South Big Data Hub for quite some time. We're actually a part of the educational hub, the educational spoke of the hub, where we are working with other collaborators to try to develop educational initiatives, some of which I'll talk about as I move forward. Additionally, as part of our connection with the South Big Data Hub, we applied for and received Dr. Stukes and myself and some other individuals at other HBCUs a large mini grant of $100,000 that we have been operating on this year to form the HBCU Data Science Consortium, which you heard referenced. And so that consortium is led by 6 institutions, but we have over 30 institutions that are participating. And our goal of the consortium is to build a data science HBCU network to establish some sort of common understanding of what these terms are that we all are working around, whether it's big data, data science, data analytics, business analytics, to try to build a repository of data science resources that can be accessible to those that are part of the consortium, as well as to facilitate research and collaboration among our partners. And so our 4 pillars of the consortium revolve around education, research, industry, and inclusion. And inclusion is a consistent thread throughout all of the other 3 pillars. And the way we have operated this first year is we had an inaugural workshop back in February of this year, where we brought together people who were interested in discussions around data science as it relates to HBCUs. We also had a mini grant solicitation where we funded 5 projects at $10,000 each for 5 HBCUs to do small research projects, which we will showcase at our closing ceremony in February of 2022. And we've also had a salon speaker series once a month that is ongoing. We're taking a break for the holidays, but we will continue that back in when we started up in 2022. And we have been moving towards sustainability of our consortium. So we've now established ourselves as a nonprofit so that we can move forward and continue on our own as we move forward. As we talk about academic programs at Florida A&M specifically, we have been involved in the Data Up software carpentry program, as you heard referenced. And like Dr. Brown said, it basically is a training program to train educators to sort of be teachers in training, right? So that you can train the trainer and teach collaborative tools related to data science, such as Python, R, GitHub, and use the tools that they have provided through the software carpentry program. So I was trained as a trainer through software carpentry, and we've run at least one activity. We've had one full training session at FAMU. We plan to have additional ones as we move forward in 2022, but that has been very successful. Other degree programs that we are forming at FAMU, we have a data science degree program that is coming up. The School of Science and Technology here at FAMU is forming a bachelor's in data science. They're also going to be moving towards a master's and PhD program. And the School of Business, where I'm housed, is also working on a master's in business analytics. But the ultimate goal is to transform our entire bachelor's of science in business administration to a bachelor's of science in business analytics. So we are moving in that direction. As it relates to research on campus, our School of Science and Technology just recently received a $3 million grant to establish a Center of Excellence in Cyber Infrastructure. And the goal there is to bring together HBCUs, tribal colleges, and other MSIs to try to form alliances and collaborations and provide access. So there's a strong, significant focus there in trying to increase diversity in STEM pool related to data science. Additionally, out at the School of Engineering, there are several research programs that are going on. And they have some really energetic projects that are happening out in the School of College of Engineering. But there are also other research projects going on at FAMU as well. So the future at FAMU is very bright as it relates to data science, and I look forward to this discussion that we're having.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Black. Okay, so now we'll take this time and I want to bring Dr. Stukes up as well. And I just kind of want to answer a few questions. I want you all to answer a few questions that I have for you, and then I'll open it up to the audience for questions within the chat. So in particular for you, Dr. Stukes, do you have any, I know you mentioned the minor in data science. Do you all have any future plans for any other degree programs at Johnson C. Smith?
Sure. So thank you for the question. So we are a primarily undergraduate institution. We don't have any graduate programs within our Department of Computer Science and Engineering. So one of the things that our goals is really focus on undergraduate pathways. So maybe not exactly another degree program, but definitely multiple pathways with data science. And we do focus on preparing our students to go to graduate school and of course industry. So some of the plans are linking up with other institutions, as we'll talk about later, to help that pathway to graduate school, but not exactly at our institution.
Right. And Dr. Black, you talked about you all are moving forward with 2 data science programs at FAMU, correct?
Yes, a data science program as well as a business analytics degree program. And so they are very related, as you know, the fields are. However, there are some very specific focuses that business analytics has. And so the School of Business is forming that degree, as well as the College of Science and Technology forming a bachelor's degree in data science. They are also moving forward to a master's degree and eventually a PhD program at some point soon. Our School of Business is working on the master's degree first, because it's going to align very closely with our Master's of Information Science that we currently have. So students who are, the way that program works right now, you can come in as an undergrad and go into a 5-year MIS program, which allows you to stay for 1 additional year for the MIS degree. And we intend to do the same thing with the Master's of Science in Business Analytics. But the long-term goal that the dean has is to create a bachelor's and a master's degree in business analytics, and eventually to convert the entire business administration degree to business analytics. So students would enroll in the School of Business as a business analytics student.
Okay, great. So before I move on to some more of my questions, we had a couple of questions in the chat that are directed towards Dr. Stukes. So Dr. Stukes, do you see interest from students in the minor coming from outside of STEM majors?
Yes, and part of that interest of students that are not inside of STEM are, and I really still target other STEM majors. So for example, maybe a biology major who isn't interested exactly in computer science, or a chemistry major. But so within STEM, we do see other interests, but also outside of STEM, especially when we do projects, for example, with the sports analytics. So we do have a health and human performance program on campus, and I do a lot of outreach. So the interest does come from myself, also intentionally recruiting and intentionally doing outreach to other departments, because that is the goal of the minor. It's a broadening participation effort.
Right. Okay, so we have another question in the chat that's closely related to what are the math requirements for both of yours programs? I'll first go to Dr. Black, and then Dr. Stukes, if you want to answer that as well.
Well, our data science program at FAMU will be very similar to some of the current computer science programs, and those have a calculus requirement. So students have to, at least while they're a student in the degree program, take at least one course of calculus. And currently the computer science program at FAMU has several tracks. But since this will be a separate degree program, it'll be modeled very closely to the computer science track, which requires as a minimum calculus, but also a few upper level mathematics that students will take. Of course, all of our science and technology programs require statistics as well. And statistics is also required for the business analytics degree that we're forming as well. Students in the School of Business have access not only to the university-wide statistics course, but there's also a business-specific statistics related course that's taught in the department that will be required for students in that degree program as well.
Right, Dr. Stukes, did you want to answer that question as well?
Right, so we have, again, a low barrier to entry. It, again, is designed to attract the students. So like our initial course is like an introduction to data science course, has 0 prerequisites, and that was the intention, so that it would not be a barrier for students that did not have like the high levels of math. So again, because it's a minor, we don't have to, well, we choose not to have a math requirement for the students to enroll in the minor. However, there are some recommended electives. So we have a core portion of the minor, and then recommended electives that if they do take some of the statistics courses and some of the math courses, which are listed in the recommended electives portion, then there are math prerequisites for those particular courses. But it is not a barrier to the students taking what we consider our data science prefix courses.
Great. So I have another question for you, Dr. Stukes, because I understand where the data science programs sit at FAMU, but where does the data science minor sit at Johnson C. Smith? I think I might have missed that, or it may be, yeah, so can you answer that question?
No problem. It is in the computer science and engineering department. So we do manage the program. And again, the idea is that we know we do have a computer science minor as well, and we kind of understand the pattern that, you know, a lot of students just won't come to computer science, but we still want to bring them into computing and math. So this was a way for us to, in my opinion, to, you know, again, have broader impact and reach more students who typically might not come all the way over into the department as majors or computer science minors.
Great. Dr. Black, how important is interdisciplinary collaboration in the creation of your programs? I mean, I know, you know, from you, for your area and how you moved over to business to help out with the business analytics program, but what about other areas like sociology, political science, and so forth? How important is that interdisciplinary collaboration?
Yes, thank you for that question. We are working very hard to facilitate interdisciplinary courses so that students that are not just in computer science or in business can also have access to the courses that are provided as electives or even as minor courses. So both the data science degree and the business analytics degree will be set up to where there will be a minor that can be offered to other majors. Right now, the School of Business in particular has a very strong relationship with health information science on campus, as well as some of the social sciences. And then the computer science department works very closely with biology as well as biological engineering. And the idea there is that then once these programs are established, to allow many of those courses to be cross-disciplinary so students can major in them as electives as well. So we're trying to, not just train the computer scientist and the business student. We want to make these courses available to as many majors on campus as possible so that students, even if they're not in the fields, can get the data science exposure and training that might be helpful to them in their careers, regardless of what that career might be.
Right, and Dr. Stukes, I'm assuming this is the same for you since yours is an interdisciplinary, it's open for all majors as well, correct? So my next question really kind of gets into roadblocks and challenges. What type of roadblocks and challenges have you seen with developing partnerships with other schools as well as within your institution? So what type of challenges and roadblocks have you seen in those areas? So I'll let Dr. Black take that one, then Dr. Stukes, you can move to that as well.
That's like a whole nother session altogether, right? We could spend a whole hour talking about that. But essentially, some of the roadblocks that we see are a lot of the roadblocks that HBCUs see just in general, which is access to resources, right? So just being able to, FAMU is a research 1A, we're not really research 1, we're not research 2, we're kind of in the middle, right? But our instructors are expected to teach heavily. So many of our teachers are heavily doing research as well as teaching, and it's equally important. So being able to really carve out the efforts that are needed to really build these programs out and to get as many faculty on board as possible has been, at least from a business analytics perspective, definitely a challenge. One of the things that we saw was we initially started out with the idea of having our business analytics degree program being a bachelor's degree first, offering the bachelor's degree first. We quickly realized that that was going to be much more challenging than we thought because just of having the number of faculty available to teach the courses on a bachelor's level, as well as having the infrastructure necessary for some of the software and things that we would need for lab support and that sort of thing. So just moving to a master's degree seemed like a much more strategic position to be able to at least spark the interest among students on the master's level, and then you can expand that into a bachelor's degree program. So really, lack of resources is one issue that we see, and just trying as it relates to collaborating with other schools. The biggest obstacle, or I wouldn't really call it an obstacle, but more like a challenge would be that oftentimes we get invited to, at HBCUs, invited to work on projects, right? Work with grants. But usually what ends up happening is you end up being a part of the grant in name only, in the sense that people need diversity. They need to check a diversity box and they want to bring in an HBCU, especially one with a name recognition or that's already doing something in the space. And then you end up only, not having as much autonomy over what happens with the program as you would like. And so, just being able to get these programs running and getting them off and running as it relates to grants and that sort of thing, where you are the lead institution, that has been a challenge. I've been working on that since I got my PhD back in 2004. So, trying to really establish grant programs where we are the lead institution is a lot more difficult than you would think, just because of biases that exist at a lot of the agencies that fund. But we have been very successful though in overcoming that. It's just a lot more work than you would think, you would necessarily have to do. But those are just my opinions about it. I could talk a lot further about that, but I'll let Felesia go ahead.
Yeah, Felesia, what are some of the challenges that, as well as barriers that you've encountered?
So I do agree with everything, Jason covered a lot of great points. The only thing I would add, well, a couple of things is, of course, COVID and the impact of the pandemic, which I know that we all are, I guess, addressing those challenges within our programs. But I think it was a disruption that allowed many of us to kind of rethink our programming, or at least I hope it allowed many of us to rethink our programming. So I would say something like a pandemic would be a challenge, and an opportunity to grow beyond that. But also connected to something like a pandemic or a disruption, I would just say timing, and it goes into what Jason was saying. If you are looking for funding, seeking funding, there is timing associated with that. So everything cannot obviously happen overnight. But I guess my general advice for those that are looking to develop these programs is just to continue, get started early and continue slow and steady. And I do believe over time things come around.
Right. So I see someone's hand raised in the audience. So I believe that we can bring him up if he wants to ask a question. I know we said we were going to go off the questions in the chat, but I see that Richard Allo has his hand raised. So
thank you. I'm Richard Allo, Dean of the College of Science and Technology. I just wanted, because we've talked about infrastructure and needs and training, and Jason has mentioned the $3 million grant that NSF has just awarded to our group. And I wanted to point that out because so many HBCUs, wanting to start data science program also, have very, very special needs if we're going to develop those programs. And infrastructure is one of them, improving our infrastructure, improving our capabilities for broadband downloads. Anyway, so this particular grant will be out there to help us all. We've spent many years working on trying to get such a grant from NSF to help propel our HBCUs and other minority serving institutions, help to improve their cyber infrastructure, help to improve training of faculty and IT personnel in how to utilize these new tools, especially now with the needs of data science, as we move into the area of non-von Neumann computing, our graphical processing units, our cognitive computing ecosystems. So this particular grant, and you'll be hearing more and more about it, I just want to underscore it. We will be having we will be reaching out to our minority institutions, hopefully in March, and have a major webinar and hopefully a face-to-face meeting. But anyway, that is out there, and I do want to let everybody know about it. And I'm glad I appreciate Jason bringing it up.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Alla. So, wow, it's a lot of great opportunities out there for us to collaborate and take advantage of. So I have a couple of other questions that I want to get to. In general, there is a lack of diversity within STEM as well as within the data science field. So what are some of your suggestions for addressing these issues? I'll go to Dr. Black first and then Dr. Stukes.
Well, I think, data science is just the piece of the pie as it relates to computer science, right? So it's really the same issues as it relates to getting people involved in the field. And the biggest advice I would have is that you get involved early with the students, as early as possible. So in one of the 1,700 hats that I wear, I also do a lot of recruiting. And I go out into high schools, and we quickly discovered that going out into high schools and running programs with high schools was almost too late, because students in high school had kind of already decided what they wanted to do. So, it became a process of trying to persuade them to think about us in addition to the thing that they had already decided they want to major in, right? So I would recommend that doing programs and initiatives that are focused primarily on middle school and even elementary school to get them excited about what data is and how people use data. There's a lot of really fun tools that we've been working with, and some of the other programs that I run that we've been working with middle school age kids on to try to get them excited about data. I recommend doing those types of things and having pipeline programs that feed not only from high school, but also the middle school into your colleges that are centered around data science initiatives. I think that, like Dr. Stukes was saying, if you can do something around sports data, that's something that a lot of young kids are really excited about, as well as social media is also something that they're interested in. And of course, social media is all data now. So if you can take those approaches to get them hooked early, then you probably will increase that diversity. And so that would be the suggestion I would have.
Great, Dr. Stukes, what are some of your suggestions for addressing the diversity gap?
So my suggestion is for those students who are on your campuses, of course, to recruit, be very proactive about that, to recruit from diverse student populations. So do a lot of outreach, make sure to raise awareness of your programs. Also just diversify the course materials. I wanted to mention two courses, two faculty members. One, Dr. Gloria Washington, she's at Howard University. She teaches a data science course on from a Black history perspective. And then Dr. Sonia Dennis at Morehouse. She also teaches a data in the diaspora, an African diaspora course, or is developing that course. And I believe that diversifying the content of your curriculum is a great way to not only recruit, because then you can also recruit students by telling them about these courses and saying, hey, come on, come join this course and learn about data science. But it's a great way to show what I would consider social inclusion as well in your departments. The other thing too is just make sure they're diverse role models. So just think about hiring practices. At my institution, in my department, I'm the first African-American faculty member in my department. And I do know that for a lot of students that role models does matter, representation matters. So, do whatever you can to help facilitate that.
Great. So I see Dr. Hassan in the audience has his hand raised. Can we bring Dr. Sajid Hassan up to ask his question?
Sure. Hi, thank you. Yeah, I'm from Fisk University, Nashville, Tennessee. I'm glad to be here. Really inspiring talks. So we at Fisk, we do have an undergraduate program in data science as well as minor. And I need your input. At Fisk, students in data visualization are quite inspired. And our students also has interest on infographics and art. What is your comments, how to incorporate this data art, infographics? I'm saying that, yeah, we do have data analysis, data analytics. How can we move further that in terms of creativity using art and other and visual, as Du Bois did, we know his data visualizations were awesome. For us 100 years, he was almost century ahead. So what can we learn from Du Bois data visualization and nurture our current data science programs and also bring art and creativity in it?
So who would like to take the first stab at that question? How can you use creativity within data visualizations in art? Dr. Black, you want to take that stab at that one first?
I'll try. I think that's fantastic that you have that focus and that interest. One of the things that we are discovering, at least from talking to students, is exactly what you're talking about, that you have students that might be tech focused or data, may have an interest in data science and may not realize they do. But they also are very creative, right? So one of the things that I would recommend is you collaborate with your art department on campus to find out, are they teaching courses that might be synergistic to what you're trying to do? For example, we in the computer science department at FAMU offer several courses in game design. And we discovered that individuals in the art department were also teaching game design from a designing and a graphical standpoint. So we decided to kind of cross-reference those courses to where students that were in computer science could take those courses and vice versa. And then that can lead to growing your program, because once students get in and they see the connection between those two, then they might, gravitate towards a full degree in that on the next level. So I would recommend, even as Felesia was talking about, working with some of the marketing and the sports departments and trying to form alliances where data can be involved. Those departments, as you will discover when you talk to them, are also already talking about data science. One of the things that we all know in all areas of the field is we all operate in silos. So we're all over here doing these things and we think we're the only ones doing it. And you find out these guys over here in this other department are doing it too, but they're doing it from a different perspective. So I just would recommend you reach out and discuss it with them and see if there's a way you can cross-list courses that might be applicable to both departments.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Interdisciplinary collaboration amongst our colleagues is definitely important, or not just on the artistic side, the sports side, but also on the social science side is where I have to give that plug, since I'm a social scientist. We want to be a part of those discussions in the communities. So I do have another question regarding you talked briefly about how you worked with middle school and high school students. So can you talk about specifically other programs that you're thinking about or you're thinking about creating as far as pathways for students that you have? So I'll go to Dr. Stukes first, and then I'll go to Dr. Black. So what type of K-12 pathway programs do you have for students?
Well, one example I can give that we've done is actually high school educator training. And I think it kind of goes into what Jason was mentioning about, just getting around other people, other instructors. So the educator training was not limited to technology educators, right? So the training was open to all interested educators, and to, again, expose the idea of data science to these educators and get them to think about how could they integrate data science into their own classrooms. And so that was a really eye-opening experience for myself, but I do highly recommend doing something like that to your local area high school educators. So that will bring about a lot of different ideas. So, obviously developing the relationships with the local schools first, understanding their needs, then developing a program that suits their needs in their community versus just throwing something out there that you're hoping, would be a good fit. Because again, going back to the COVID impact, so much has changed. The culture in the schools have changed. A lot of the mental health issues are coming to the surface. So there's a different level of sensitivity that may be needed there with some schools. So I do highly recommend first just connecting with the high school educators and figuring out the best approach to create programs for that particular student population.
Great. And Dr. Black, before I let you answer, I just want to tell the audience, if you have questions, please post them in the chat. I'll be reading them from the chat. So Dr. Black, do you want to highlight any K-12 programs that you have at FAMU in order to create pathways into your programs?
Yeah, we have several. The university as a whole does, and it's actually Dr. Allo's School of Science and Technology holds every year a data science STEM day, where we invite K through 12 students from all over the Big Bend area, which basically is the panhandle part of Florida, to attend one day at FAMU where you showcase STEM in general. One of the things that we have done recently, because I run another STEM program that's funded under the Department of Education. That is a high school through freshman year college outreach program. We have had students who are working with our program that are FAMU STEM majors that volunteer with the STEM Day. So in the most recent run of it, we didn't have it in 2020 due to COVID, but the most recent run of it, we had our mentors who served with our program work with STEM Day and show them data science and introduce them to data science. And so as as I was saying earlier, getting them just the exposure to what that is, and STEM Day brings not only the students together, but also their parents. So we were talking to the parents about data science being a viable career and how they can, help their children think about it, because, the parents are the engine that makes it all work, right? And if you get the parents involved, then they're going to get the students excited, hopefully, to get them thinking about some of those careers. I think what Felesia said is really important. When you work with high schools and middle schools, you can't just show up with, hey, I got this program, implement it. We quickly found out doing this type of work that is a terrible idea, and teachers will let you know very quickly that they do not appreciate you showing up with your ivory tower idea of what they ought to do as it relates to data science. So I think what she said is extremely important, that you really just talk with them and find out what their needs are. We've done that with the other STEM program I work with. And one of the things that they invited us to do was start coming to the classrooms once a month and do certain activities related to STEM. So one of the next grants that we intend to submit is a business analytics, data analytics program that will fund FAMU students who have an interest in data science to go into high schools and do data science, business analytics related programs on the high school and middle school level to try to get them engaged and excited about the field. So we're going to submit that in the next run of solicitations that come up with that grant, which we hope to do in the spring. So there's a lot of work that we're trying to do, and some things we are currently doing, but we're excited about what's coming down the road. And then I mentioned in the slide very briefly, the College of Engineering, they also have a program called CREST, which is an outreach program to get students involved in STEM as a whole, but also there's a data science component in that as well. And so they have the college kids that work in that, but they also have a summer program that they bring high school kids on campus to show them some of those tools. So I think, like I said, getting people involved as early as possible is the key.
Great, excellent. So regarding, again, collaborations, but on the other side, on the tail end, what about in local industry collaborations? Do you work with industries that hire your students? And how do you make sure that you're meeting the knowledge, skills, and abilities that these institutions need for your program? So I'll go to Dr. Stukes first.
Yes, so we definitely work with what we would consider advisory boards, of course, to make sure that we're addressing industry needs. Oftentimes there is an emerging need, and so maybe we need to offer a special topics course or something along those lines. And so we get that information directly from our industry advisory board members, but also we work with some of their existing programs. So a lot of industries, so for example, I mentioned the IBM Skills Academy, but quite a few of these companies, they do have existing programs where they are also reaching out to students and trying to help the students develop these skills as well. So we do plug our students into the existing industry programs as much as possible, because a lot of the employees at the industries are putting a lot of effort into coming to speak to students, to describe what they're doing. And so we try to connect the students as much as possible when they're interested in giving back to our students.
Great. Dr. Black, is there anything you want to add regarding industry collaborations at FAMU?
Yeah, so along the same lines, we have advisory boards for both computer science as well as the School of Business with industry partners. We also have very robust recruitment partners from industry that come. And in fact, the idea of creating our business analytics degree program in the School of Business came from industry. So, they showed up and said, hey, we've got these students and they're great in business, but we need them to be more technical. They need to understand information. So that was a discussion we had. In fact, the School of Business is also revamping the majority of the courses now to incorporate data and data analysis in an early level. So almost every course involves some sort of exposure to Excel and using Excel to understand data and how to analyze data and develop visualization and that sort of thing. And so that's a discussion that we have from industry that led to that. We also work with both computer science and School of Business. We work with our industry partners to incorporate projects in our courses. So many of our courses have projects at some point the students have to complete, and we try to get those projects from our industry partners. So a lot of the courses that I teach are data analytics, business analytics related. And so a lot of the projects that I've been using are projects, real world projects that I have received from our industry partners. In some cases, they've been working with sample data that comes from the company. And that's been a really strong plus. A lot of students who've been in those courses have actually gotten hired from those companies once they graduated. And then a final thing that we do, or that I do, is I work with a lot of hackathon groups. And many of our companies are now wanting students to participate in data science related hackathons or business case competitions. And so we get students involved in those too, which also leads to them possibly getting future employment. So.
Great. Well, this has been a great discussion. And before I hand it back over to Michaela, I just want to get you all's final thoughts on what's next for your programs, what's next for your institution as well. So Dr. Stukes, I'll go to you, and then Dr. Black, please tell us what's next and your final thoughts.
Well, yes. What's next for us is just to continue to expand. Again, our program is very, very new. So we're going to continue to expand, continue to train faculty, continue to build more resources, infrastructure, everything that you need to start a new program, and grow as much as possible, grow our partnerships, grow our collaborations, and support all the area and regional needs as much as possible. And I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity to present.
Great. And before I go to you, Dr. Black, we do have two comments in the chat. So it says, the first comment is, Dr. Black, are you willing to share your data science and curriculum or give us a URL for your website? So I'll completely leave that up to you. And if you want to put that in the chat, you can. And then one other last minute question that I want to kind of make sure the audience gets a chance to ask is, how is your experience with tools such as Tableau, Power BI compared to R and Python? I love this question because I love Tableau. So what if Dr. Black, if you want to answer that as well as give us your next steps and final thoughts, that'll be great.
Yeah, I'll answer the second question first. Myself and a few other instructors in our department recently went to a workshop in Tableau. And so we've brought that back, and we've been using that in several classes. I teach an Intro to Business Analytics course, and we use the Teradata network, where we expose students to the university portal through that, and they have used Tableau in that course as part of that. We're also incorporating it in several of our other courses too that we teach, particularly a database course that we offer in the School of Business. As it relates to the degree programs and sharing the curriculum, we are still in the process of developing those curriculum. So as soon as we have them, we will definitely make those available. You can get my contact info. I can drop my email in the chat, and we can reach out to you. We can give you some samples of what that looks like now. But again, we're still in the formulation process, and so they're not fully complete yet. But I would definitely be glad to share that with you once they are approved. But as far as future directions go, we are, again, we're carving out those degree programs now. And as you know, that's a process. So we are in the early stages of that process. But we're also looking to get more grant programs related to data science. Dr. Allo talked about the cyber infrastructure program. We have a couple of others that we actually just submitted proposals for. So we're hoping that we get those soon and that we can get those programs launched. And again, we're just trying to increase the data science landscape on campus and get as many faculty and students and future students involved as possible.
Great. Now, I'm sorry, but we really have one more question in the chat that I got a direct message from someone from the National Institute of Health. And their question is, they would like to know what is the focus on non-business related informatics and data science using machine learning or AI. So Dr. Stukes or Dr. Black, would you like to, do you all have any focus on that as far as non-business majors and their relationship with informatics related to data science, AI, and machine learning? Are you all moving in that direction as well? I believe she's referencing like health informatics and so forth.
Well, I can start, and we also do have bioinformatics on our campus as well. But for sure, again, our target is typically non-majors. So a lot of our skill set we're trying to give to other disciplines so that they can apply it within their discipline. That's the idea. So we encourage them, bring us a project from your discipline and let's apply our methodologies so that we can collaborate in that way. So the short answer is yes, indeed. We do quite a bit of that. And that's one of the ways that we're able to work so well with other majors.
And do you all see this kind of moving towards as more of an interest within your institution to kind of expand that AI machine learning for, regarding to the health and the bioinformatics areas and so forth?
I forgot to mention this part. So within that, we are using the platform, which is IBM Watson Studio. And within that platform, it does give access to a lot of the tools without, again, for students who are non-majors, they do have access to the tools and the algorithms without exactly, having to, be a comp sci major. So we are training using some of the skill sets to, depending on the size of the data that they're working with. So we're encouraging them, if they do have, big data, to kind of get a little bit more advanced, some of the advanced skill sets. And remember, we are training undergraduate students, so it is just an introduction. However, we use that to encourage them to learn more in graduate school as they continue. But we are able to access those skills. So within our computer science department, we do have other classes for that, but that is more of an advanced student. But within the data science courses for non-majors, we just use platforms like IBM Watson Studio to handle some introductory level of those concepts.
Great. And Dr. Black, I'll give you 30 seconds and then I really need to pass this on over to Michaela.
Yes, I'll be real quick because that's out of my wheelhouse, but I will tell you that we do have bioinformatics on our campus, and our several professors in the computer science department have grants where they're working in bioinformatics, which brings in the biology students. We also have at the engineering school a data science research group that brings in student faculty from all majors. And they've been talking about health informatics as well as climate change. And that's bringing in a lot of people, including people from the social sciences. So there's big discussion about machine learning and how to increase people's knowledge of that on campus. So we are working on some of those initiatives. Great.
Thank you all so much. I've really enjoyed our conversation and learning more about the programs at your institution. For the audience, they both have placed their emails within the chat. So thank you. Michaela, I'm going to turn this back over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you to our speakers, Dr. Black, Dr. Stukes, and thank you so much, Dr. Brown-Robertson, for moderating this session. This was really informative. I think we all learned a ton. This video will be made available online for anybody who's missed it, and we'll share the link. So you're welcome to pass that around to your collaborators. I just wanted to say one last thing, which is that we do have one more of these virtual sessions before the end of the year. I mentioned this at the top of the hour, December 15th. So a week from today, Wednesday, same time, we are going to hear about creating interinstitutional data science pathways. So this is throughout the California state system, streamlining access to data science education. So with that, I thank all of you for joining us. Thank you, speakers. Thank you, Dr. Brown-Robertson, and have a good rest of your day.